Welcome to Psyched Up Cinema. Where film and psychology meet. With my background in psychology, criminal justice, and social work, and John's background in film production, it makes for one interesting show. Join us as we combine our interests to examine psychological topics and how movies use them really well. Or really poorly. Prepare to be psyched up. Action!
Hello, everyone. I am your host, Johnny Six, and with me is my co-host.
I don't have a cool name picked out. Was I supposed to pick out a cool name beforehand?
You think Johnny Six is a cool fucking name?
I don't even know what it means.
What's the movie we're covering?
Oh. Well, I feel really fucking dumb right now.
I'm Johnny Six. With me is my co-host.
I'm Kate69.
Kate69, you're so funny.
I know.
You couldn't even say Katie69?
No.
Okay. I had to call myself Johnny.
All right. Let me redo it then.
You gotta redo
What's up, guys? I'm Katie69.
There you go. All right, finally, we're gonna keep all that in.
Come on.
Today, you're not gonna believe what we're covering. What are we covering today?
Mickey 17.
Mickey 17, baby. We are so back. I don't even remember when our last episode was. I think it was February? January? When the hell was our last episode? Let's
Sorry
peek this
about
up.
that, guys. Life got a little crazy.
Yeah, what happened? So, I think we had mentioned a little bit about what was going on in our last episode. But I think we saved it till the very end, and that was a very long episode.
It was like a resolution conversation at the end.
And I think we basically hit every resolution. Which is impressive. It's pretty impressive to hit all your resolutions. Our last episode was January 16th, which is, holy shit, that's exactly 3 months ago from when we're recording this. And you know what tomorrow is?
What is tomorrow?
April 17th. And we're covering Mickey 17.
Oh, that's nuts.
Anyways, for where the hell we've been. So I think I mentioned I was going for a new position, and I did get promoted. So
Woo!
Yeah, so I had to take another exam. And then
I don't even know what my resolution was. Beats me. Wasn't that important.
if you didn't remember,
I did
it wasn't that
not get a
important.
promotion.
You did get a raise, though.
I did get a raise.
So I mean that's pretty baller. We did shoot my short film that was mentioned. What a fucking fiasco! I'm gonna
tell me about it.
So we were supposed to film this late February or something like that. And a whole series of events happened where the shooting location didn't happen. It used to be the place where I live, in which that week before I got an eviction notice to get the hell out for a understandable reason. I mean, I didn't do anything. It was just, I didn't do anything, but it was an understandable reason why I got evicted. But it was just one asshole that reported me. Anyways, during that process, we moved in together. So
as platonic roommates, obviously.
As platonic roommates, yes.
I
didn't move in with you, though. I moved in with someone else. So we moved in together in early March.
March 7th, baby.
March 7th, yep. And so when we moved in, we unpacked, and then we shot my short film that got delayed by basically a month. And now we have basically settled in, mostly. I would say we settled in. We're not unpacking stuff every day. So that's my idea. We
do have a living room, couch, and TV now, which is pretty cool. Oh, yeah, by the way, We bought a whole ass house.
We did buy a house.
We
So
bought a whole ass house.
so it's pretty epic stuff. So I mean, sorry for the delay in content, but shit happens.
Shit got real.
Shit did get very real.
Life happened.
Yep. But now we're back.
Also, I don't know if we talked about this, but I costume designed for your short film, and that was pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out.
No, it came out great. And I mean, everyone that looked at it was like, "Oh, who'd you get for that?" And I was just like,
Just me. She's kind of underground.
And then people
She's
were
not
like,
discovered yet.
people were like, "You do costume design?" And I was like, "Well, you as in you, not you as in me." She does costume design, and I'm like, no. But
No, she does therapy.
But it came out great. I'm excited for people to see it. I have no idea when it's going to be done.
I also acted in it.
Did act in it too. Did a very good job. No
I'm not
lines
an
of
actress
dialogue.
either. So many people were asking me that on set, like between takes and
Oh,
when
really?
I was getting makeup done. They were like, "Do you like do this on the side?" I'm like, "No, not at all."
I didn't realize people were asking me that. But yeah, fun, exciting times. We're kind of getting back into the swing of things. I have like sound projects I'm trying to catch up on. And then this podcast will basically become my priority. So which should hopefully be soon. And I hope to get another episode soon. Anyways, I think that's enough. I mean, well, it's only been 5 minutes, but I want to cover start getting the topic of the movie. But do you think we should cover anything in our personal life that we may have missed?
I can't even remember what my goal was for the year. So honestly, I think I wanted to like learn more in particular topics. I did a trauma training today. That was cool. Somatic therapy. That was awesome.
Hell yeah. Somatic.
Shout out to somatic therapists. You guys are pretty cool. Underrated.
Anyways, what's her movie? It's Mickey 17. Mickey 17 was released in 2025, which is this year.
No way.
It's directed by Bong Joon-ho. Is the IMDb description is a disposable crew member on a space mission selected for a dangerous task becomes his body. Oh, I'm an idiot. Selected for a dangerous task because his body can be reprinted if he dies, with his memories largely intact, with one regression. With Jesus Christ. It's 9:30.
I think you need to wear some glasses.
I can read it. I can't like decipher it. With one regeneration, though, things go very wrong.
Regeneration. One regeneration.
That's what it says.
That's what it says.
With one regeneration, though, things go very wrong. This is from
Okay.
IMDb. I promise
I'm not
you.
going to question IMDb. They're like the feds, the movie feds.
They're the International Movie Database. Come on. It's based on a book. Do you want to guess what the movie, the book is called?
Is it called Mickey 17?
No, fucking idiot. It's Mickey 7.
Well, you know what? If only 6 of them died, it wouldn't have been that interesting.
That's true. It needs to be 17. But it was written by Edward Ashton. The budget of the film was around $118 million.
Damn.
And it made $130 million. So not the best, but I could probably see it making its money back with like streaming and limited physical media. So
I also want to point out, based on that synopsis and the trailers that we had seen before, I did not know the extent of what we were getting into with this movie. I feel like when people are watching it, they're going to be caught off guard, and then they're going to tell someone about it who's interested in the content that wasn't contained in the trailers and in the synopsis.
yeah, I was expecting this to be like some like existential kind of like what is death kind of movie, because I mean that was a lot in the trailer and stuff like that. And the movie does have a little bit of it, but I mean on the second rewatch, I really didn't like notice it that much. I think people ask him like 3 times and he says he doesn't really like it, which we'll cover. I mean, we'll go dive more deep into it. But I was kind of expecting something like that, and not a movie about fascism, which is the topic of this episode.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, certainly wasn't expecting it. We were maybe planning on covering fascism in a different movie, another little John Carpenter movie I was thinking of. I know people probably know what that is. But we kind of decided Mickey 17 would be kind of more unique, considering it just came out. And there's plenty of John Carpenter to go around, so.
And just, I left that movie theater like, so what the hell just happened? Like, I had such whiplash going in there expecting this ethical dilemma focused movie that was maybe gonna throw in some sci-fi and maybe get into how human printing came to be and where they were going with this, and walked out like, it was not that.
Right. No, I'm in the same camp because I mean, I was expecting to like it because I mean, I like Robert Pattinson.
They had a stacked list of people on that movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, everything was great in that movie. I really enjoyed it. We'll dive more deep into it, but you know what my favorite thing is? You know what I love?
Money Time? Oh wait, we already did that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Money Time.
Come on. Please put in the cha-ching sound. That's very important to
We'll
me.
put it in later because I forgot about it.
We'll do it in post.
You know what I love? Google AI. Yeah, I usually do Rotten Tomatoes, but I don't really like Rotten Tomatoes. I much prefer Google summary on audience reviews.
All right. Let's hear it.
When we were doing our research, I out loud laughed and then just went back to it. So this is what I out loud laughed at. The thumbs up ones, which I mean, if you like or dislike a movie, that's the only two things you can't do. You can't have any in-depth opinion on it. Reviewers were impressed by the acting, particularly Robert Pattinson's performance, and found the movie thought-provoking, raising questions and about identity and humanity. Seems like fine AI.
That's
You know,
horrible.
it's doable. Here's the dislike. Some viewers found the movie to be a waste of time and boring, with a weak storyline and unengaging characters.
That's such bullshit.
To be a waste of time. So that was funny. That's the word we chose of criticism.
I think we know what kinds of people said those comments there.
And I wish I got a picture of this, or like the full review. But I just see to my right somebody gave the movie a 2 out of 5, and I see like a cat laughing till I'm crying emoji, and I really wish I could read the full review that had that. But I think the Rotten Tomatoes score is decent. I honestly don't fucking care. So I think my new thing, it is so unique. Everyone goes to the Rotten Tomatoes score, but nobody talks about the fucking
Google AI score.
stupid AI Google answer. So I actually don't like AI. If people didn't pick up on that.
What?
Anyways,
Oh.
that was our fun, unique, not waste of time intro on this movie. So obviously we liked the movie. What did you like about the movie?
I think the thing that sticks out in my mind the most was the acting. Everyone did such an incredible job. I thought there were so many compelling characters in the movie, and I felt so many emotions along with those characters. Like Mickey 18's story was so compelling to me too, and the fighting between 17 and 18. You wouldn't think Robert Pattinson acting with himself could be so interesting, but it was. And Mark Ruffalo crushed it. I really love him, but my respect for him is off the charts. He killed it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're probably gonna be talking about Rob Pattinson a lot, because I definitely think he's a highlight in the movie. But I do really like the Mickey 17 and 18, because they are really like polar opposites. And I think when we initially watched the movie, there's like that subplot with like the mom in a car accident, and Mickey 17 blames himself for it, but Mickey 18 is like the more rational thinking. And I remember when we originally left the movie, I didn't really usually when I pose questions like this, I don't really mean it like in a like why would the movie do this? But it was more so like what was the intention of it? And I was kind of wondering what the intention of the car accident subplot was. Because when I was leaving the movie, I'm like, what really was the point of that? Because it doesn't really go anywhere. But I think that is to like show how the different Mickeys process it. Because you only really see it twice when Prime Mickey, the original Mickey going into space, kind of sees it. But also that kid looks nothing like Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
It looks like some.
Well, I'm sorry. Why did they pick? It seemed like a Hispanic actor to play little Robert Pattinson. Was it supposed to not look like him?
Robert Pattinson just has such a range that. But yeah, it's.
I feel like I said something about what I thought the intention of that scene was, but I can't fucking for the life of me remember what it was.
I think I said is because he misremembers the event and him like
No,
completely
no, no.
misremembered
I
himself.
mean the whole car crash scene in general.
I think it was kind of what I was starting to drive at, where it shows the different rationale. Where I think like Mickey 17 is a lot more emotional, is thinking, while Mickey 18 is a lot more technical in his thinking, because he just like straight up says like that was a car defect. You pressing that button had nothing to do with it, or us pressing that button had nothing to do with it.
Oh, okay. I think I remember what I was thinking about that. I kind of took it as, I mean, they're the same person. They have the exact same DNA. Similar to how somebody with anxiety or PTSD can mull over the same situation and have this internal fight with themselves about who was to blame or how something happened. He's basically doing that, but out loud in the form of two of him.
Right. And they clearly say that like the different Mickeys have like his different versions, yeah.
Editions.
Have like different personalities. Like I think there's a line where he says like Mickey 3 was really whiny.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. So I'm glad that I'm not really sure how much it ties to the book exactly. So I'm not really sure what to say for kudos for the director for or the book writer. So kudos to both of them for choosing those personality types. That.
Part of me wants to read the book now for comparison's sake.
Yeah, I'd be interested to read that. But yeah, even past Rob Pattinson, Mark Ruffalo, I think Toni Collette is really good in this movie, where she's just obsessed with her sauces, which I didn't really pick up on the
So
first
funny.
watch. She's just always talking about fucking sauces. Like I think she mentions it like I saw it like almost like 5 or 10 times. And like
And her rug.
and her rug. Yeah, that's a great scene. I feel like there's some scenes in a movie, and it's usually the midway point, and that scene is the midway point of that, where it's just like it just goes like so hard, and it's probably like the best scene in the movie.
Oh, it's the best.
And it's definitely applies to this movie. And then the following scene is basically the following scene is the two Mickeys having a conversation. The Mickey 17 just like the thank you for dinner goes over that event. Yeah, I swear those like the best scenes. And then I feel like the movie goes really fast at the end, which I mean it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it had good use of its runtime. There were no points where it felt like boring filler.
Yeah, I think the movie's pretty good at knowing when to stop. And also I think there's enough substance in the movie where it's always like touching on something before it gets too old. Like what we'll talk about later. I think if it just talked about Mark Ruffalo and like just kind of like the cult or the church, that the church company cult that is the call it, is that he's working for. If it was just that, I think it'd be like, all right, like I get it, but like it has a nice balance between is making the different versions of Mickey ethical. What's it like to die? What's that feeling? and also the fascism aspect of it. I think all three of those combined make it really compelling. I think it's almost like a 2 hour and 20-minute movie. And it doesn't really feel like it really
No,
overstays its welcome. It also has elements of grief too.
for sure.
So
And trauma.
yeah,
And how trauma can manifest differently in the same person. He both beats himself up for an incident and justifies it as not being his fault whatsoever.
right.
And there's room for both within the same person.
No, there's not. You can only have one emotion.
You're right. You're right. And we're going to get into that black and white thinking that kind of fuels the fascism part of things here.
What is I also really like, because I mean the scientists for the most part, there was a good reason I say most part, are like complete assholes, except for that one. And I'm not sure if she gets a name or if she really says it.
Dorothy? I think her name's Dorothy.
Let's peep it out. I think you might be right. Yes, Dorothy. I really like her character because she, even though the scientists are like complete assholes, she's like the one thing that stops you from like completely hating them, because they are kind of needed at the end of the movie for like the decipher device, and like not all the scientists are bad, at least that's how the movie make it seems. It seems like the leader scientist, some fucking douchebag's name is.
Oh my God, fuck that guy.
But I really like Dorothy's character, and I really like how her and Mickey kind of bond over like figuring out the creatures, or the creepers.
Something that I really like about her character is upon second watch, you could see her do little bits of compassionate things that the other scientists were overlooking. Like when Mickey was coming out of the printer and nobody put a table there for him to come out on, she was running to catch him to make sure he didn't flop on the floor. When all those other scientists were being negligent, they didn't care. They justified it as he's just an expendable, whatever, who cares? She went that extra mile to show compassion and did the same for the creepers as well.
Right, and even because there's one bit where there's one of the Mickeys is the shortest one to live, and she kind of like comforts him in that. And I just really like her character and how she's really distinguished from the other scientists.
And I also, an introvert showing love for an introvert character here, the fact that she was very quiet and mild-mannered and was very low-key about the compassionate things she was doing. But when it came down to it, when they were talking about killing all the creepers, she spoke up on their behalf and explained that they're intelligent beings and they too deserve respect.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody who started off so quiet, I can't imagine that was an easy thing to do. So I really liked seeing that character development, even though she isn't a huge part of the movie.
Right. No, I agree. And I think there's a lot of characters like that. Even he only really shows up at the end. But I like the general that kind of comes in and kind of starts I don't want to say the word, but I guess a coup against the marshal, when the marshal's down doing his speech. I say that in quotes.
Yeah, I don't really know when he came into play, but he started to kind of push things along towards the end.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely was a lot more prevalent in the end. He came in like a few times, but nothing really much. He came in when Mickey 18 was going to kill Timu. Timo?
Timo? You said Timu.
Whoopsies.
Can we kill Timu while we're at it, please?
Timo, right?
Timo.
Excellent.
I looked it up. It's Temo. Timo.
I thought it was Timo. But I mean, it doesn't really make too much of a difference.
It is Timo, I'm pretty sure.
Anyways.
I wrote it down.
Timo. Not Timu.
Regardless, it is Timo.
Speaking of which, what do you think of Timo?
It's funny because we first see his character and the whole like opening the macaroon
Macaroons, baby.
shop.
That's such a fucking random thing, but I loved it so much.
It was so funny and so dumb. And in the beginning, I don't know how you feel about it, but I kind of wanted to fight for him and justify his actions and be like, he was just stupid. He just didn't know any better. But then as the story progresses, it's like, no, this dude knows damn well what he's doing. He's very calculated, and he keeps going further and further in his disregard for other people's lives at pursuit of furthering his own. And towards the end, I was like, fuck this guy. He sucks.
Yeah, I agree. No, I'm in the same camp. Because I don't know, I thought the macaroons thing was kind of funny.
It was really funny.
Excuse me. You see his shift a little bit, like once the paperwork's being signed, he had somehow found like his gift as a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
A gig as a pilot, not a gift as a pilot. Kind of see it a little bit there, but I mean, you kind of like justify it. I mean, like, yeah, he wants to leave just as much. You see him leave Mickey in the beginning, which I mean, at that point, it's so early on in the movie. You're like, I don't really know who the fuck this guy is. I mean, yeah, it's like a douchebag thing to leave him. I think that's when the shift, once you see it actually happen in the movie, I think that's when the shift starts to happen. Really, the biggest shift happens definitely when he tries to kill Mickey 17. I mean, that's like the most unjustifiable.
Yeah.
He does, but
when
I mean,
he finds out that all this time somebody from that guy's company followed them into this expedition and has been waiting to get his weird murder porn, he is so quick to be like, all right, which one of you am I killing?
Yeah.
No trying to pitch it to them or be like, I'm so sorry. I really don't want to have to do this. He's like, all right, let's get this over with.
I feel like he tries to. He like tries reasoning with Mickey 17. But
not out of compassion, out of trying to get him to give in easier.
Yeah, trying to get himself out of a situation.
He also left him there to die.
Yeah. And
he starts acting like everyone, like all the other scientists that view him as just the expendable.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't see him as a friend if he ever did in the first place.
Right. Even though he's an asshole, I still like kind of like him. And I think he's just like fun to watch.
I think he's entertaining, but I think upon second watch, I disliked him even more.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because of the trial at the end where he gets off so easily and then everyone else has this long drawn out trial. I'm like, this is every person that you see in real life that just gets dealt the best hand.
Yeah.
And their shit don't stink. It doesn't matter how many times they fuck up. They always end up okay. And it's, those people infuriate me. Like, you could do the worst thing and still get out of it, not get in trouble whatsoever. And I hate you for it. You suck. I hate those kinds of people because if I do one thing wrong accidentally, like, God forbid I make a mistake on my taxes, they're going to throw my ass in prison. No second thoughts. While other people commit tax fraud for years shamelessly, and they're fine.
For context, she's been audited by the IRS twice.
3 times.
3 times. But for me, he's kind of like an evil Han Solo. I mean, like, Han Solo comes around at the end. Timo never does, but like, he's just so entertaining to watch. And like to see him interact with people where I'm just kind of like, I don't know, just like, he's not a good person. Like, I don't like him, but I think he's just so fun to watch. Like you've said, entertaining. Like, where I'm like, I kind of hope he sticks around, like, you know?
Yeah. Man's got charisma. I'll give him that.
Someone else really liked is Nasha.
I was gonna say that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I like her anger bits. Like whenever she
Yes,
gets really angry.
that's exactly what I was thinking towards the end, where she saves that baby and she goes on this tangent about, like, you're just an asshole. You're an idiot. And hold on, let me pull up my quote because this really stuck out to me. No wonder you blew the elections, you fucking moron. I love her for that.
Yeah, she loses it a couple times, but it's all at the end. There's the Timo scene, and then at the very end, and does she lose it? Oh yeah, sort of.
She pulled a gun
And the
on
cafeteria
someone in the
guy.
cafeteria.
Yeah, that was the first time you see it. Yeah,
I respect her for it, and I love her. Okay, she goes a little too far with pulling a gun out on someone for asking Mickey what it's like to die, but I respect I respect how not ashamed she is to stick up for what's right. And she does not care about getting thrown in jail. She does not care.
yeah.
She just acts on her instincts, and I love that.
Something I did think it was weird rewatching it is like when that scene happens and Mickey, like in the narration, is like, "Oh, I'm stuck with these idiots or these jerks." I feel like the guy wasn't that mean to him. Like I feel like, I mean, like, yeah, it's a stupid question to
I
ask.
think it
But
comes from a place of curiosity, but I can only imagine how exhausting that gets. Because what are they in there for, like 4 years?
yeah, something like that.
Imagine your whole job is suffering and then dying and then coming back, and you're stranded for 4 years with people that relentlessly ask you questions about the worst moments of your life. That sucks.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. Just he's like, I'm stuck with these idiots. They're jerks, and then like, I feel like they could have written it where he asked it, or had him perform it in a little bit more of a jerky way. Because I think, like you're saying, he says it in more of like, I feel like a genuinely curious way, rather than like an asshole way. But I do think it's funny that she pulled the gun out on him. So. Because, I mean, kind of tying back to that, because Kai asked the same question.
But the context is so different.
How do you know, though? You don't know why that guy's asking that question because you're missing the
True,
context.
But she was prefacing it with, I know you get asked this all the time. I'm sorry. I know it must be exhausting. It sounds horrible. I just want to know. I'm just genuinely curious. The other guy seemed like a total stranger to him, and like, what's up, dude? How is it like dying?
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, even Timo asked that question towards the beginning, middle, in media res beginning, whatever the fuck you want to call it. He asked it too. So I think that question gets asked a few times. And I think it's interesting how the movie he like handles it, because kind of like the way I thought the movie was going to go was like an existential way, but it doesn't really like take that approach. It kind of just takes it more of like, this is his job. And like, we don't really know what happens, which I mean, isn't new. I mean, like, obviously.
Yeah. Well, in a sense, they do tackle it at the end where Mickey 18 is hesitant to hit the button to blow himself up. And Marshall takes that moment of vulnerability and tries to weaponize it and says, oh, you're afraid to die too? Oh, we can join in this together.
So do you think that the point, the movie's trying to sort of like mislead you into thinking it's gonna be something existential, but it ends up kind of turning it into almost like being like a manipulated, like fascist kind of thing?
I think it is existential in some ways, and I think in other ways it's weaponized. And I wanted to say this Marshall quote at some point, so I might as well say it. Well, he says when he gets like pulled into this trial to talk about the ethics of human printing, he says, how can we use this abomination to our economic benefit? So he admits it's horrible, says it's a terrible idea, and goes, but how can I profit from it, though? And I think that moment where he confronts Mickey 18, he tries to use that perspective against him. Like, I know this is hard. This is a horrible thing. When he's talking to that counselor or whatever the fuck that was. He acts like he cares about the ethics of it. But when it comes down to it, he's only trying to see what he has to gain out of all of this all the time. He does not care that Mickey 18 is afraid to die. He is just the expendable to him.
Right. No, I get that.
But he tried to use that moment of weakness where he pointed out that he knew Mickey was afraid to die and tried to use it to bring him on his side.
I feel like the existentialism comes more from cloning, which I mean is kind of sort of becoming a thing now in terms of like bringing extinct animals back to life, which is happening somewhat recently. I feel like that's more of the question the movie is trying to tackle rather than like
but as
death.
a subplot, which is interesting.
Yeah, as a subplot, and I think it tries to use it as a way as like death is like a banner over it to kind of cover it. But I think really when you are kind of thinking about it a little bit deeper and they talk about like the one soul, one person, and try to tie a religious meaning to it. But it just kind of boils down to like the ethics of it. Like, is this ethical? And even just taking like religion out of the question. And even like with the I forget what the doctor's name is, but the doctor that created the expendable program and then created 3 of themselves. It's like, who's responsible for if the clone were to do something like,
and do they serve one prison sentence each? Does one of them serve a prison sentence on behalf of the rest of them? Is only the clone that did the crime responsible for that action? And what about what they get fed? Are they all entitled to meals?
Right. And I mean, I don't think cloning humans is going to happen for a very long time, but I mean like bringing things back from the dead and cloning, because I think they've cloned some animals successfully, but I think
They've brought animals back from extinction through cloning.
Yeah. So
or it's more complicated than that. Blah blah blah, science shit, whatever.
blah blah blah, science shit, film podcast, blah 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 blah. But I feel like that's what the movie is trying to tackle. But it tries to like provoke the death questions, but it kind of like dodges it in ways. Like going back to that conversation with Kai, he's just like, "Well, I know I'm coming back," but then at another point in the movie where Mickey 18 tries to kill Mickey 17, Mickey 18's like, "You do this all the time," but he's like, "Yeah, but that's it for me."
Yeah.
So I was just born today, but then I died today. I think that's as far as the movie really tackles it, though.
And I think it's meant to be that way because there's no easy answer. There's ways to use it to benefit society. Like they found a way to get that vaccine through the expendable program, but at the cost of him suffering and dying over and over and over again. There is no right or wrong answer because there are ways that any tool can be used in a cruel and abusive manner, even if it's not meant to be that way. And inevitably, humankind will find the evil ways to use something that could be used in a really helpful way. But the question of, is it ethical to do this at all? That's such a black and white question. You're supposed to answer that yes or no.
Yeah.
Because you either do it or you don't. But it's not that simple.
Yeah, well, I think you see Marshall using it in a bad way because he's like, how come I use this for my economic benefit rather than like the humanity of it? Because he's thinking more of the money of it. But he also tries to tie it back to his church / company where he's like, oh, this is an abomination, but also I can make a lot of money off of it. So it's like he doesn't really pick one.
It also shows what happens when things go into the wrong hands. He didn't have to use it that way. This is this incredible technology, and his first thought was, how can I weaponize this?
Yeah, and he's like, I'm gonna use it on my spaceship, so it'll be fine. It'll be my first time using it. So
I think that the movie was funnier than I expected. I didn't expect so many elements of comedy to be thrown in. Something that's existential and political and all different kinds of things. Sci-fi. I didn't expect it to be so funny.
yeah, the movie really does a great job combining genres. And I mean, even though it's not like my favorite movie ever, I think it's very watchable, and I'll probably watch this movie a ton of times because it gets you thinking, but it's also like entertaining. Because I mean, like, just going off my personal preferences for movies, like in my top 50, like I have some movies that I'm like, this is a pretty good movie, but like I know it's not perfect. It's just because it's like it'll get you thinking. It's not like shallow, but also it's just like entertaining to watch. And I feel like this
Yeah.
movie strikes that balance really well, rather than just being depressing.
Yeah. I think that it does such a good job at handling multiple heavy topics: grief, fascism, ethical dilemmas, in a way that's entertaining, but also doesn't leave out the emotional and big ethical questions at the same time. It makes you think, it makes you feel, but it doesn't leave you feeling heavy.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it does have a happy ending at the end, so I mean, it doesn't leave you like, well, shit. um, but since you mentioned it, well, let's talk about it now because we're probably not going to get back to it. But let's kind of talk about the grief aspect of it, because it's something. I mean, like we talk about, Mickey is called an expendable. He's expected to die. Really, that sounds like a James Bond title. Uh, but like with the creepers, oh man.
We also watched the Minecraft movie.
We didn't watch the Minecraft movie. What am I talking about?
Two adults pulling up to the Minecraft movie.
What did we get for dinner tonight?
Ashamed. Shut up.
We got McDonald's Happy Meal so we can get the toy, and we got
We're
Steve.
supposed to tell them about that.
we got Steve, so we got Jack Black. Anyways, so yeah,
Grief.
with the creepers, I mean, like they're so like heartbroken about it that they literally wrap around this ship to try to get one of them back. And I mean, you see how many of them there are.
Yeah.
And Mickey like just gets reproduced all the time.
And there's no regard
Exactly.
for his life and quality of life. He just comes out of the printer and slops down on the floor.
Right, yeah. And I mean, Marshall was just like, when he was in pain, he's like, I'm just gonna fucking shoot him. Like,
Yeah. This is the right thing to do, right?
Yeah, and then
He's
the scientist is
expendable.
like, yes, this is the most humane thing. It's like, is it?
Yeah, they reach a point where they're desensitized to him dying. Not that Marshall in particular ever cared, but there's so much desensitization around death that they're like, wow, whatever, fuck, kill him again. And there was one time where he wasn't even dead and they threw him in the pit.
Well, I mean, look at Timo. Like, he's just like, all right, they're just gonna print you back out tomorrow.
Whatever.
Whatever. No, it's fine. Just leave me here. It's okay. But yeah, the creatures, and I mean, we kind of talked about this with the score, and I always forget how we word it after we watch the movie.
So, I think where my head was at that point was I was noticing that when it came to the scenes where the creepers are swarming around one another to try to confuse the people and hide its leader or the mother figure, whatever, which I think ants do something similar to keep themselves from drowning. They take turns like being on the top.
Oh,
I don't know. I'm pretty sure I might be talking out of my ass. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, they were protecting that mother figure. And when it cuts to the scenes with the creepers and they're protecting each other, the score is loud. There's a lot of chaos. There's creepers screaming. There's a lot of noise. And when it comes to human death, like when Mickey dies, it's like, whatever, throw him in the pit, burn him, print the next one,
Right.
whatever. And it's not really an event. It's not something that there's like grieving for, because they're like, whatever, he's one of infinite Mickeys that can be printed. Meanwhile, the creepers are so horrified over the loss of one of them.
Yeah.
That they go through this extent to get that other one back.
Well, even just thinking back, because there's only really like one human casualty before the whole showdown at the end, and it's Kai's friend.
Yeah.
And Kai at the dinner, when she's invited, she's like, I want to say a prayer for my friend. And they're like, oh, of course. And then they just pass it off. They take over her prayer. And then the marshal's wife, when they're at the dinner, the marshal takes over her prayer. And then the marshal's wife just starts fucking singing and overhauls the marshal's prayer. And then they all just start singing. And that completely hijacked the whole point of it. And you just completely forgot that this came from like a moment of grieving a good friend, because they're just like, whatever.
So that leads into where I was going to go with the thought, is that the human grief that's shown is strictly performative. Marshall initially is like, fuck Jennifer. Hey, Mickey, why didn't you risk your life instead of letting her die? Idiot, you just lost one of our women. We could have used her in the breeding program. He doesn't care about her or him. He's just angry. There's no grief. But then he wants to get Kai and use her for his like icky breeding program. So he tries to win her respect over by allowing her to have this moment of grief. And he turns it into this, well, his wife turns it into this ego stroking performative bullshit. Meanwhile, the creepers, for they're dead, they're screaming.
Yeah.
It's this really primal instinct, and it's very genuine, and it's real grief.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry, I just kind of like remembered something I want to talk about.
Also, I wanted to point out that Mickey is just Mickey 1, Mickey 2, Mickey 3, Mickey 4, Mickey 5. Meanwhile, all the creepers, they may look all the same, similar to every edition of Mickey, but they all have their own names, and every single one of them is loved and accounted for.
And I think that's what the movie tries to end with, because it goes from like the counter Mickey 17, it changes to like Mickey Barnes, his actual name, because that's who he is. So yeah, I think you're right, and I think the movie tries to drive that home without really telling you, without directly saying like.
I think ultimately what they were going for is, we as people are, especially in the US, are so desensitized to death. And we need to start actually taking the time and space in our lives to grieve, instead of just keep it pushing in the capitalist machine.
I think just even in general, not even going from like grief, I think people in America are just like angry all the time about something. And I think it comes from a place of like egotism. They think like they're the one, they're number one, they're the true one, they're the only one. Like, what's that? Is the Marshall slogan?
Oh, the
one and only.
One and only.
And I mean,
on red hats.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that every American's like this, because that would be a fucking stupid statement. But I feel like just a lot of America, like people are just like angry all the time. They're like, if they're looking to talk to somebody, looking like pick a fight for like no goddamn reason. And I think sometimes it just comes from a place of, one, we don't have a lot of mental health resources. Two, we're not allowed to show our emotions. And three, it sometimes just boils down to like survival. Like
Yeah.
some people, like in the environment they brought up in, they have to act like that to survive.
Absolutely.
And in America, you just don't get the resources to do that. And I'm not saying that America is probably the only place for this. I mean, we just fucking live here, so that's where I'm
Oh.
basing my context off of.
And, sometimes anger is just anger. Everyone's allowed to be angry about something. Things are angering that happen everywhere all the time. But oftentimes, anger is not that cut and dry, and it comes from a place of repressed emotions that are more vulnerable emotions. Like, anger can come from grief. Grief that's undealt with, because grief is vulnerable. People are afraid to show that side of them. We're taught that we're supposed to go out into the world and put on a brave face and not show our soft side. But grief is inherently vulnerable, and there's no space held for that in the world. Or not enough space, I should say. Not enough mental health resources, like you were saying. So people put on this mask of anger to protect that vulnerability that they're not allowed to show.
Right, absolutely. And I don't want to dive like super deep in this because I think my next pick will end up being about grief, anyways.
Perfect.
Where a movie ties more
One of
into
my
it.
favorite topics.
But we definitely wanted to bring it up in this one because it is something that the movie talks about, and it is a nice distinction between the creepers and humans, and how the creepers are shown as these like disgusting creatures, but they're more humane.
They're so compassionate for one another.
And they literally save someone that's not their own.
Yep.
They just like they never met this guy before, and they just save him.
They only attacked someone when they were shot at. And Marshall, I pulled this quote, they lust for human flesh. That's how he describes them. But they only attacked when provoked.
Yeah. And they didn't really like attack. Like,
yeah, not
it wasn't
really.
like visceral or anything.
No, it's not like the one that grabbed Jennifer's leg killed her. It was the collapse of that cave.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else before we start talking about everyone's favorite topic?
I feel like we yapped enough.
Yeah, we did the yap a lot, but it was a good movie. I'm glad we were having that discussion because we have so much more to talk about.
We sure do. We sure do. On to such a light, fluffy topic of fascism. What is fascism? What do you know about fascism? How would you describe it?
Mass manipulation and false information.
Yeah. I mean, I pulled this quote that I really liked. It's from a podcast called Civics 101. I was just trying to get some fascism information on my long commute home, and came across this podcast, and they had on a professor of political science at Buffalo State University. His name is Patrick McGovern, and he had a really great definition for fascism. So I'm going to quote him here. He describes fascism as authoritarian nationalist ideology characterized by strong central government, dictatorial leader, strict control of economy. It suppresses political dissent. It's aggressive, militaristic, and it has a clear sense of an enemy who has caused a crisis in the nation, and there's only one person that can solve that crisis, and everyone has to get on board with the leader.
Yep. And also to some people who may be listening, if you don't think we are going to talk about the current United States and you don't want to hear about it, probably just stop listening because we'll probably talk about it.
You're not really cut out to be here anyway.
Yeah, probably not.
If you think I'm ever gonna praise Trump, you don't know who I am.
And I mean, I'm sure we're absolutely going to talk about Nazis too. So if you also don't want to hear about Nazis, we're not going to talk about.
We're not getting into gory details here, just the ideology.
Exactly, correct. Yeah. So I mean, we're not going to talk about like the Holocaust and stuff like that. Yeah. Something I do want to bring up before we dive deeper into fascism is this a little film trivia thing, and I think we may have talked about this a little bit. And I want to still, before you dive deep into it, I want to talk about this figure before we talk about fascism, because I think it is important for portraying fascism in real life, and there's a character that does it in Mickey 17 very well.
What?
You ever heard of Triumph of the Will?
No.
So Triumph of the Will is a purely Nazi film. It was directed by I really don't want to use this word, uh, p- infamous, I guess is a good way to put it. Infamous uh documentary director, and I'm absolutely gonna mispronounce her name. Uh Lena Riefenstahl. Lena Riefenstahl is if you're a documentary filmmaker, I don't really come from that background. I'm not a big documentary person, but her films are studied because of the way those movies were shot and filmed. It almost gives a sense of visual storytelling in portraying documentaries. So, it's kind of like, I'm sure you probably know about this, and I fucking hate this movie, Birth of a Nation, the
Mhm.
Ku Klux Klan racist movie.
Yeah.
This film is like the documentary version of like Birth of a Nation, how it's studied. So it's like one of those. I just swear to God, every fucking art has like the one shitty thing that was made and it's like studied upon, which I
Mm.
think is fucking stupid. Like I'm gonna go on off tangent. I took like a history film class because of course I did, because I had to. And I swear to fucking God, we studied Birth of a Nation for 3 goddamn weeks because it has cross cutting in it. I don't. Who fucking cares? They invented
They
cross
couldn't
cutting.
have found something else.
Right. I mean, you could just say, "Hey, this film invented cross cutting. It's a shitty movie. It invented cross cutting." Okay, fine. If I'll watch it, we can watch a scene of it. But I don't need to watch Birth of a Nation, which is a 3-hour movie, by the way. I don't need to watch Birth of a Nation to understand it invented cross cutting. Awesome, great. Can we talk about another movie that invented something else that's just maybe useful?
But also, who cares who invented it?
Exactly. I mean, like you could say, like,
what's the relevance? You can say like they're the first ones who did it, but you don't need to watch a whole fucking movie to get that context.
Right, and I don't think it is the first, but it's definitely the first to be the most popular. But Wizard of Oz, like being one of the first mainstream movies in color, and I forget if it is the first or one of the first. But we didn't study Wizard of Oz nearly as much as we spent time on Birth of a Nation. And I mean, Wizard of Oz is one of the first fucking movies in Technicolor. That's like a big deal. That's a huge deal. We talked about a good amount of movies where it's the introduction of sound, which that's a huge deal because some actors and actresses like lost their jobs because they could not vocally act. And some people boomed because like they were so good at doing like body acting and vocal acting that they just like took off. But we spent 3 weeks on Birth of a Nation because they invented cross cutting. Awesome. Great. Anyways, I'm done talking about that. It just really pissed me off. I also fucking hated that teacher. Anyways, Lena Riefenstahl made this film called Triumph of the Will. And it was a documentary, say that in quotes, about Adolf Hitler and Nazis and like portraying him in a great way.
Boy.
And there's like a famous shot in it where his like something of his is coming from the sky, so it almost like visualizes like he's a savior and stuff like that.
God.
Who does that remind you of in Mickey 17?
Mr. Marshall?
That guy. So I think it's important to bring up how Mickey 17 has a character that's like, I would love to get a shot of you like this and like talk about how stuff would look on camera because all of that is going to be used to bring in more people, to manipulate more people, to get people into believing that like this is real. Because I mean, all movies are really is to get people behind an idea.
Mm.
I mean, or at least a good one. It should. Films are inherently manipulative. They don't show you everything. You look through the lens. You see what they want you to see.
Well, it's selling you immersion into a universe that doesn't exist.
Right. Or in a documentary's case, trying to almost sell you on a point of view or try to say something is realistic or say something the way it is. And I mean, films are inherently that way. Famous directors talk about manipulating audiences all the time. And when you do direct a movie, you kind of have to manipulate because, I mean, when you saw me when I was directing, you would say something like that was like, oh, well, shouldn't you be this? I'm like, it doesn't fucking matter because I know I'm going to cut it. because I was like, I know how this is gonna go together. It doesn't matter, and like that's how a director's brain kind of works. Is like I know how I'm gonna make this look. I know how this is gonna be put together. If something's off, it doesn't matter because it's not gonna be in it. So I think Mickey 17 having that character that is the Lena Riefenstahl of this movie of Marshall, and also we also didn't really mention that the church slash company almost looks like swastika in
Mm-hmm.
some ways. But I really wanted to bring that up before you talked about like what is fascism, how it kind of ties to this, because I feel like films and like art forms are ways to indoctrinate people into thinking that way. So, what are
Never
your
thought
thoughts
of
on
it that way, I guess.
that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I obviously didn't get the type of study that you got into those very infamous, influential documentaries that were trying to pitch a positive view on um like dictators and
Yeah, Nazis or the KKK in Birth of a Nation's case.
yeah. So it's interesting because I didn't get that information prior. That's not something I've known about really.
Well, if you ever get the opportunity to waste $100,000 on film school, then you can get that opportunity.
That's okay. I think I'm done with education. I have served my sentence in higher education. I'm all set. Thank you very much. I'm in enough debt. Anyway, I found this really great Vox article, and it's an interview with a Yale philosopher, Jason Stanley, and he had a lot of interesting things to say about fascism, including what exactly it is. So I wanted to quote what he said on this as well. He said, I think of fascism as a method of politics. It's a rhetoric, a way of running for power. Of course, that's connected to fascist ideology because fascist ideology centers on power, but I really see fascism as a technique to gain power. So, kind of what you were talking about with setting up things to be seen through a very particular lens, pushing this narrative.
Yeah.
Even if it's completely make believe.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like a lot of fascism is built on very flimsy ideas of one person to blame. And I think that's something you're going to cover about like black and white.
Yeah. So I'm going to continuously quote the same philosopher because he has a lot of good things to say here. But he says that the key thing about fascist politics is identifying enemies, appealing to the in-group, and smashing truth and replacing it with power. The goal is to make the dominant cultural group feel like victims, to make them feel like they've lost something, and that the thing that they lost has been taken from them by a specific enemy. That's why fascism flourishes in moments of great anxiety, because you can connect that anxiety with fake loss. Basically, when something goes wrong, you innately search for a reason why, something to blame, and you fall into this very common cognitive distortion of thinking in black and white. Like, if economy bad, that means immigrant ruin economy. Or if we lost the war, that must mean that Jewish people are to blame for that. Simple cause and effect thinking when it's not that simple.
Right.
But it's easy to believe that because everyone wants to believe that it's simpler. Why should we have to do the brain work of thinking further into things? Critical thinking hurts my head. So let's just not do that.
Well, I feel like especially nowadays where we live in such like a headline culture where people just read the headlines and then don't really dive any deeper into it. They'll just believe what one person says, even though they may have zero evidence zero background to like
Mm-hmm.
even be qualified to even be yapping, and people just hear it on their news station. I'm like, all right, that's
Yep.
it.
So, directly going off of that, the next quote that I pulled was part of what fascist politics does is get people to disassociate from reality. You get them to sign on to this fantasy version of reality, usually a nationalist narrative about the decline of the country and the need for a strong leader to return it to greatness. And from then on, your anchor isn't to the world around you, it's to the leader. So, in order to get your perception of reality, you're no longer looking at the world around you. You're looking to this person to tell you what your reality is.
Make America great again.
The one and only.
The one and only.
And I pulled a Marshall quote. So in that dinner scene where Mickey has his adverse reaction to something that they slipped in his food to test without his consent, the head scientist is like, I'm very sorry. I will immediately resign my position, just in the most monotone voice. I'm so deeply ashamed of what I've done. And Marshall says, stand tall in your failures like me. The leader's not going to let you know when they're not certain about what's going on. That's what gets you to buy into their narrative, is they are so confidently wrong.
Yeah.
And people want to believe that because, especially during a time of high anxiety, high uncertainty, you want somebody to tell you what to do. You want to look for a sense of direction.
Right. Yeah.
Like, how can we fix this problem? So we're going to look to the easy, quick solutions, even if they're wrong. Like, oh, let's just kill all these creepers and then we can settle and have a great society. They're the problem. Okay, that's simple. We'll just blow them up then. Problem solved.
Yeah. We'll just build a wall around Mexico and then all of our
You're
problems
so
will be solved.
Going back to that same article, also a quote from Jason Stanley. Fascists are always telling a story about a glorious past that's been lost, and they tap into this nostalgia. So when you fight back against fascism, you've got one hand tied behind your back because the truth is messy and complex, and the mythical story is always clear and compelling and entertaining, and it's hard to undercut that with facts.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, let's go back to that slogan we were talking about earlier. When was this America so great? Like, was it when the economy was good? Because I mean, like,
Was it when women couldn't vote?
was it when there was segregation? Like, it's like when was this so?
Where's America's great past that we're trying to bring back here?
Yeah, because you can only go back so far. Like, where are we gonna go? Like,
When it was just native people here and European colonists hadn't destroyed it yet? Kick people off their land or enslave them?
Speaking of that, when Nacho is like, they were the natives. They live here.
I love that quote. She says, "We're the aliens." Like, you dumbass. We're not even using the term alien here properly. We're the aliens. The entitlement of thinking that you can just plow into someone's land and call them the weird ones.
Yeah.
And expect that they're just going to lay down and take it. It's crazy. Something that was very snuck in there. I think this was also in the dinner scene. Marshall says, the church, I mean company. And then he goes on to say that he's looking for a, quote, pure white planet full of superior people and pure human race. I don't think that it's a coincidence that he put the word white and pure in there.
Yeah.
It very directly connects to Nazi ideology right there.
And something that I kind of want to tag onto that, because I mean, I feel like Mark Ruffalo's performance is very Trump. I mean, like, obviously he does the stupid fucking fist dance and he kind of talks like him too. But you had mentioned to me that the director had said a quote that it's not supposed to be about Trump. And I actually did pull the exact quote. And yes, it's not supposed to be about Trump directly, but I do like this quote and I like where he's going with this. So I'm going to kind of read it verbatim. So he says it's a combination of many different political figures, which I do believe. I think
Yeah.
that makes complete sense.
We've had a bunch of bozos around this country.
Well, even other countries too. So,
Yeah, true.
but he does have this quote, and I do really like this. When we showed the film in Berlin and talked to people from many different countries, it seemed like people were projecting the most stressful political leader onto the character of Marshall, which I do think that is interesting. Where, I mean, yeah, we view it as Trump because we live in America, but somebody who lives in Russia or the UK or anywhere else, they probably think of, I don't know, somebody from their town hall. And it's like the same way. So I do think that's an interesting approach where it's like, yeah, I mean, Mark Ruffalo kind of took it in more of a Trump way, but
Well, being in America,
exactly,
that's what influenced him.
exactly. But and it's nice to see that other people in different countries. Well, it's not nice to see, but I get where he's coming from, where people project their own political leaders onto it, and we have our own projection of it. And I'm sure people who are in Trump's camp probably see like Joe Biden in there or something like that. Which, I mean, I do see. I think there's some funny things with the wife and Joe Biden. There's a kind of resemblance that I really like. I think it's kind of funny.
Oh yeah,
But
the
that's
wife
also,
feeding him the lines because he just doesn't know what the hell he's saying.
but that's also me too, projecting Joe Biden on there because I'm from America. We're from America, so we see elements of that on there.
I would love to hear the perspective of somebody who's from a different country and hearing what elements they related to a leader in their area.
Yeah.
Like, we think about the red hats, the slogan that's supposed to motivate people to be on board with him. We think about the mannerisms and the way he purses his lips and uses his hands to talk. But what didn't we notice that's connected to someone totally different?
Right, yeah, because I mean, I don't fucking pay attention to international politics. So
who has the mental space for that, honestly?
Poli-sci majors.
You guys hate yourselves.
I have attention for two things: the economy,
movies,
and movies. Those are the two things I have attention span for. But I do think it's interesting because when you told me that, I'm like, there's no way he was trying to go for that. But when I read the full quote, I'm like, that makes sense. And I think it's
love it.
No, me too. And I think that's a nice approach, because if he did just went full Trump, then it would probably isolate a ton of the audience. So he kind of went with this broad blanket dictator fascist, and then he's like, you guys put your own spin on it. Who do you think it is? And I do prefer that approach much more, honestly. So I'm glad that you dive deeper into it.
Yeah, it connects with more people.
Absolutely.
I love that. Like you said, I don't love that there's that many people out there that are really shitty leaders, but I think everyone needs something to turn to and laugh at, because the reality is depressing, and sometimes we need comedic relief by laughing at politics and how absurd it is that it's real.
Right. And I mean, I also want to say, like, I mean, people are allowed to have their different opinions on certain issues. I think it comes in when your ideas are inherently like transphobic or homophobic or like xenophobic. Then it's just like, okay, like
when it invades somebody else's right to live peacefully, yeah, then it's like we can't agree to disagree anymore.
Right. And I mean, if someone had a different opinion on how to manage the economy, sure. Because that's a very, yeah, exactly. That's a very lucrative thing. People have their own opinions.
There's no right or wrong answer to that. Different things work at different times.
Right. But tariffs never work. Fun fact. But I think just like there's certain things I think you can politically disagree on. But when what's kind of being held right now, the very like transphobic like policies being put in, cutting like the Department of Education, which something I was going to mention was that really the only way to fight against fascism is education, really.
Yeah.
People become more educated.
Yeah.
And people on the right love to say like, oh, the colleges are indoctrinating people on the left. And it's like, I'm not going to say everyone on the left is more intelligent, but maybe more people are just critically thinking about things. And, you know, maybe sometimes people just don't like what the Republican Party is doing, so they lean
There's-
more to the left.
There's also a statistical trend with the blue states having higher levels of education and the red states not having as good of access to quality education. Let's look at the trends here, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, that was something I was also going to mention. The movie doesn't really touch on the education part, so I don't really want to touch on it too much on that aspect of it, but it's something to bring up.
And with that, I wanted to go through a list of. This is from Keene State. They created this. I don't know if they created it or just cited it, but I can't see any other credit on here. But they created a list of characteristics of fascism, and so many of these are shown in Mickey 17, which I'm so impressed by how they did such a well-rounded capturing of all of these characteristics. But I would love to find some examples for each one, just to point out how prevalent these characteristics are represented and how in your face it is without being obnoxious.
Mhm.
I don't feel like it was obnoxious at all. Like you said, it wasn't like they went crazy with the Trump thing and were in your face and alienating other people, other audiences by doing that, by overdoing the Trump thing. So first one is powerful, often exclusionary nationalism centered on a cult of redemptive, infallible leader who never admits mistakes. Exactly that quote that I pulled.
Yeah.
Stand tall in your failures.
Yep. Yeah, and he never takes fall for anything, and he has people around him who will take the fall for him, and so many people around him just suck his dick so often about
Yeah.
everything. So
I'm so embarrassed for people that suck the dicks of politicians. Like, hey, buddy, they're not gonna give you anything in return. Do you realize that you're just being used, you dumbass?
yeah.
2 is political power derived from questioning reality, endorsing myth and rage, and promoting lies.
hmm
He wants people to hate these creepers, and the word's not dehumanize because they're not human, but you know what I mean, like not view them as living things with intelligence and compassion and all the qualities that make us human beings.
Like dissociating like humanity from those creatures, like
Yeah,
not even looking at the
basically.
bright side. And when he finds out that they did save Mickey, he's like, "Of course they did. They're not stupid. They're bad meat.
Yeah, he's
bad
printed meat.
Yeah." And then his wife is like, maybe they are intelligent because he knew he wasn't good. So it's like they still try to find a way to make them like hurtful creatures.
Yeah. No matter what, the leader's never wrong, and they will always find a way to twist the narrative to support their pre-existing beliefs.
Right.
The next one is fixation with perceived national decline, humiliation, or victimhood. Like, we can't let these creepers make a fool out of us. We have to take a stand and be strong against them and just blow them all up.
Yeah.
We can't let them win, because letting them exist is letting them win, apparently.
And then still trying to take it to his advantage once they find out he has the translator. He's like, the Lena Riefenstahl of this movie is just like, you should go out there and make a speech because it would look great on video.
The next one is white replacement theory, used to show that democratic ideals of freedom and equality are a threat. Oppose any initiatives or institutions that are racially, ethnically, or religiously harmonious. This one's kind of convoluted because they were kind of going for the theme of racism without it being connected to race, like
Right.
in ism in general, like,
Yeah.
or phobia. Like, it could have been, you could see the creepers as any oppressed group of people.
Yeah, I can see that. And I feel like a sort of way you can also look at it is like Mickey's just kind of a slave in a way where, I mean, he's just controlled by the scientists and sort of by Marshall, but more so the scientists because he basically just does their work. And I mean, at any point they could just not reprint him if they didn't want him.
Yeah. I also think about Kai's reaction at the dinner scene, her being like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
Just her genuine confusion and how that's immediately shut down. Like, he's just an expendable, whatever.
That's his job. That's what he signed up for.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, we are not going to allow you to think any deeper about this.
Yeah.
It's black and white, period.
And I think she also succumbs kind of out of like a place of fear too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, she knows that she's control. I mean, they own the goddamn ship. So
What she's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Number 5 is disdain for human rights while seeking purity and cleansing for those they define as part of the nation. They want to get rid of the creepers, and there was that quote about having a pure white colony.
Well, also, even just look at the way they treat people on the ship.
Yeah.
If you're not in Marshall's circle, you're in the bottom of the ship. You get no food.
Yeah.
You get, like, ration for 7
your
calories. Yeah.
If you go 1 calorie over, they're going to humiliate you on the PA.
They're trying to control your activity to make sure that you don't consume even more calories by making sure you don't have sex.
And yet Marshall is allowed to have this extravagant meal, and he can invite whoever the hell he wants to it. Number 6 is identification of enemies or scapegoats as a unifying cause. Imprison or murder opposition and minority group leaders. Again, the creepers. Pretty cut and dry there. Supremacy of the military and embrace paramilitarism in an uneasy but effective collaboration with traditional elites. Fascists arm people and justify and glorify violence as redemptive. Like the guy who's coaching him on the angles that they're going to get. Like, look at how powerful you're going to look here.
Yeah.
You're going to look so cool.
And like in the moment of war, unquote, he like puts on this like military outfit and like shows up as like a military leader, even though he probably has like no military experience.
And he was like half naked in the scene where they were landing the ship. He's no military leader. He just puts on the uniform.
Right.
And has people trained to be military for him. But he himself is just a figurehead.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's given the power of those 2 buttons to blow the Mickeys up just for show.
Yeah.
Some other ones are kind of harder to see because I don't think that they were going for a 1-to-1 comparison of creepers represent racial minorities or ethnic minorities or gender minorities or sexuality minorities. They weren't going for that, but number 8 is rampant sexism. You kind of see that. Like that female scientist, she wasn't really respected. You could also say that it's because she didn't go with the status quo, but, you know, they weren't, I don't know. I feel like they weren't too clear on that.
Right.
There are hints of it here and there, but it wasn't a major theme.
Yeah, not really. It doesn't really hit on that too much.
Number 9, control of mass media and undermining truth.
The Marshall Tonight Show.
He's the one and only.
And when they're on Earth and the news guy is interviewing people and somebody asks the news anchor, are you part of Marshall's network? So showing that he has news connections on Earth too that he partially controls.
He has all of his own media people and they're posing him and setting him up to say and do things at certain times and posing him to look powerful, and it's just so centered on appearance and ease of communicating misinformation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obsession with national security, crime, and punishment, and fostering a sense of the nation under attack.
The ship.
The military is a big theme. People are thrown in jail for stupid shit.
People are thrown in jail all the time.
Yeah. That jail was crowded.
Yeah, it was.
Because it gives him his sense of control. Anyone who pushes back is going to be tossed in the jail. Here's a good one. Religion and government are intertwined.
That does not apply whatsoever.
The church, I mean company.
I really want to know more about that. I wonder if the book touches on that a little bit more. I really
Yeah.
like to get the context of that a little bit more and kind of what they believe in. I'm not sure if it's another one of those situations where it's just like you can apply it to whatever you think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I took it more as like a Christianity kind of thing, but I don't really too sure because they didn't really dive too deep into
You
it.
can project whatever dominant religious group is in your area
Yeah,
onto that,
and,
basically.
or even one that's trying to make itself into politics.
Mm-hmm. Corporate power is protected and labor power is suppressed.
That
All
doesn't
of-
apply whatsoever.
All of his inner circle is just fine.
Yeah. And everyone else gets rationed and stuff
Yep.
like that. Get bad living quarters.
Disdain for intellectuals and the arts not aligned with the fascist narrative. No, we can't be thinking about the creepers as intelligent, because then I look bad in trying to kill them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think he more so like tries. I think he genuinely thinks that they are stupid because he's stupid and he just
That's a
doesn't
good
listen
point.
to other people. So I'm not sure because there's no one really sees proof of it besides like a handful of people. And I don't think he really gets to see like proof of it too much. And he's just so stuck in his way.
Well, he doesn't even believe them when the translators created. When these
Yeah.
creatures are able to directly communicate what they want and need, he's like, shut up. I don't care.
I think it's more so like he's stuck in his ways rather than trying to suppress. Because it's not like he came to the realization that they were intelligent. He's just like, I don't care.
Well, isn't that suppression as well? Not caring, willful ignorance. That's a form of suppression.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, if you look at it a willful
Like,
ignorance
I'm
way.
not going to let you have a position where you can broadcast that information because I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Rampant cronyism and corruption. Loyalty to the leader is paramount and often more important than competence.
Well, I think we established that one.
Yeah,
I
the
think we got that one pretty
scientist
well.
that makes horrible judgment calls and then just goes, "My bad, sir." And he's like,
I am
it's
so
okay.
sorry, and I will never do this again.
I will resign my position effective immediately. No, it's okay. Fraudulent elections and creation of a one-party state. No. He lost the election on Earth, so created a whole colony so that he could lead one.
Right.
Which is honestly the biggest adult tantrum ever. What do you mean I lose? No, I don't. I'm going to create a whole
I'm going
nother
to
world
another planet
where I win all the time. And here's the last one. Often seeking to expand territory through armed conflict. It's not enough to be on their land peacefully. We need to take it all and kill them all, bomb them all. They're gone. Yeah. And I want to leave this off with a quote from the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. I'm not exactly sure who said this quote, but it's at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak up because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not Jewish. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
It's such a sad quote. And also, I mean, like for I'm sure probably people haven't taken this walk before, but there's the Holocaust Memorial in Boston, and it's like a small pathway you see, but it's extremely like sad and like heartbreaking because you're walking down this path and you see everyone's names, and I think really I mean, it's people who are Holocaust deniers are fucking morons. Like, I could say that
Straight up,
opinion.
you're
Yeah,
a
fucking
dumbass.
idiot. And I think it's just one of those things where it's like we really had to look back on history to make sure that shit doesn't repeat itself. And if we keep seeing groups like have their rights taken away and not being able to speak and being suppressed, it's like at what point is that going to affect you?
Yeah.
And that is such, I mean, it's such a heartbreaking quote. That it's like an extremely true and extremely tough quote to read because it just puts everything in perspective.
And to relate this directly to what's going on now, I think about, I've seen former Trumpies on TikTok talking about, oh, well, now I'm having to pay more for this and that, so I don't support Trump anymore. Okay, where were you when he was attacking other groups of people that weren't you?
Well, I mean,
You didn't care when he was attacking minority groups, but now it affects your grocery prices. So this is the point where you hop off the train? We are never fighting for what he says we're fighting for.
right.
It's got nothing to do with cutting the budget. It has everything to do with justifying what he wants to do and continuing the narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but we got a whole 3.5 more years of this.
Whoopee.
And speaking of Mr. Trump, I think I have a nice little quote I'm going to end this off on. So while I was kind of looking into this, this was off the same website where I pulled the director quotes about the political figures. And something he had said is that he holds no grudge against Trump's comments about his film Parasite. And I was like, what comments? So I went to go look this up and I thought it was very funny. So this is in around early 2020. I think it's still before COVID, but this is when I believe Parasite either won or got nominated for the Oscar or something like that. It was somewhere around that point because the film came out in 2019, so the Oscars 2019, Oscars happened in 2020. This is what he has to say. What the hell was that about? We've got enough problems with South Korea with the trade. On top of that, they've given them the best movie of the year. Was it good? I don't know. The distributor, the Neon Productions distributor, shot back on a tweet saying, understandable, he can't read. That was funny. And then he goes on to say that they don't make films like Gone with the Wind, which is apparently a racist film. I haven't seen it because it's like 4 hours long.
Oh.
And Sunset Boulevard, which Sunset Boulevard is a good movie, but I mean, there's also other good movies besides Sunset Boulevard. Anyways, that's
the moral of the story is keep yourself educated. Don't rely on political figures to tell you what reality is. Look around and take it in for yourself. And what's right is what's right. What's wrong is what's wrong. And there are certain things that we can't agree to disagree on. There's no debates on human rights. You don't get to tell another human being if they're worthy of existing. Period.
And don't get a film degree.
Facts.
But yeah, and also watch Mickey 17 if you haven't. Get that box office budget up. Please rent it or something like that. I'm not getting any money from it, but I hope you give some money to the film because it is a very good movie. I think it made more money than Captain America: Brave New World though, so that is a plus.
Thank God.
Captain America: Brave New World was the 32nd highest grossing MCU movie. I'm not sure if you know that. Anything you want to add or anything like that?
No, just keep yourself educated on what's going on in the world, but also remember to take care of yourself. There's a lot of scary stuff, a lot of big changes that happen on a day-to-day basis. And it's important to stay informed, but at the same time, some things are ultimately out of our control. And it is our obligation to fight for one another's rights, but you can't pour from an empty cup, so don't forget to pour into yourself as well.
Yeah. And I think also, like, if you do get really anxious about what's going on in the world, I think sometimes you just need to unplug for a bit. I mean, I deleted Instagram for a while, probably for like almost like a month or two. I was quite a while. And I mean, it felt great. I felt like I was doing a lot more productive things. It felt like I wasn't just going on my phone needlessly. So, I mean, definitely just unplugging for a bit. If you like use social media for like a business and stuff like that, probably should keep it up and maybe try to limit yourself. So that way you're not getting as anxious, stuff like that. So if you have the anxious problem, if you're not anxious, then fucking brain rot all your reels and TikToks you want. I don't give a shit.
But you can't make any effective change if you yourself are in constant state of fight or flight. Also, your individual life matters. It's okay to tend to those things. Get your fucking nails done, even if it feels silly and ridiculous in a time like this. Take care of yourself, even if that means just keeping up with your hygiene and making sure you're eating and drinking water and all that. Take care of yourself.
Get your nails done before the price goes up.
Or be like me and just buy yourself a gel nail kit to do at home, because that's the broke thing to do.
Yeah.
It's more sustainable.
Yeah, tough world. Try to be safe. Try to take care of yourself. You should listen to more of our podcast episodes. I think
so true.
It has
most of them are not this heavy and political.
Most of them, it has been psychologically proven by a licensed clinician that we have here that everyone who listens to our show immediately becomes in a better mood. Everyone's very happy, except for the teeth episode. Probably wouldn't listen to the teeth episode. Listen to our Beauty and the Beast episode. Beauty and the Beast episode's goated.
Yeah.
Listen to our Beauty and the Beast episode. Listen to our best of episode for 2024. What's another good episode? We're just like jerking ourselves off right now. I think our Mouth of Madness episode. I like that one.
Yep.
Shutter
Shutter Island.
Island. Even though
we gotta talk about trauma, but whatever.
And the audio sounds like shit because it was our first episode. But we're not gonna worry about that. All of our episodes are really great. I think everyone should listen to our show.
And they're gonna keep getting better, and we're gonna keep being more consistent, because I don't have any other very disruptive future plans.
Hopefully, when it rains, it pours. That's what they say.
I hope it's done pouring.
I'm
getting really tired.
I think we're good now. I think we're starting to slow down in our personal life.
Hopefully, getting a cat soon.
Hopefully,
I hope so. That's gonna be dependent on the dog's opinion.
The dog just looked at me when you said we're gonna get a cat.
He knows.
He's not happy about it. Anyways, holy shit, this is a long episode. Thank you for listening. Next time, I hope it's Starman. I hope so. I hope so. Starman was kind of inspired a movie I made, except my movie's a horror. So my movie's like a lot of John Carpenter things put together. So
your favorite.
I'm a big John Carpenter guy. Anyways, so hopefully next time it's Starman, but it could always change. But yeah, any closing thoughts?
I think I said enough.
All right. Well, you heard it. Goodbye.
Good like and subscribe. Whatever. Download our episodes. I heard that helps.
Download, rate, follow us on Instagram.
Do all the things.
Do everything. So, all right, everyone.
Right now.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye.